Thanks everyone for having me here today. I'm going to be talking to you all this morning in respect to Ireland's Pavilion in the Dubai Expo 2021. So a lot of you may not know that we have a World Expo every 5 years. And this year it will be in Dubai. It was due to open actually a few weeks ago in October 2020. But because of obviously the coronavirus, that has been put back a year. So it's due to open now the coming October in 2021. So the OPW were charged with the design and delivery of the pavilion. So that's nearly complete as we speak. And we've done that on behalf of our client, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. So what I'm going to talk to you today with the theme around design and innovation, some of the kind of design ideas that went into the pavilion and how we developed and evolved the design as we moved forward. So before I kind of get into that, I'm going to take you through a kind of a little history of the World Expos. And I think what's interesting in the innovation side of things is the various designs and innovation and various kind of products that have been displayed at expos over the years. So they were started in 1851, the famous Crystal Palace in just in Hyde Park in London. And some kind of headline kind of products that have been kind of exhibited at the expo. We had in 1876, Alexander Graham Bell exhibited the telephone, would you believe? And then in 1900, the famous Paris Expo unveiled the Eiffel Tower. So there's a rich history there of design and innovation in terms of architecture and manufacture. So with regards to the expos themselves, they've kind of changed over the years in terms of their general themes. It kind of started off in the 1800s, and that was all about, I guess it was kind of the Industrial Revolution. It was about new materials, steel, glass, manufacturing processes, and a very exciting period of kind of innovation and technology. And then we moved to the kind of post-war development time, and that was around kind of more about the human development exploration. It was about the space race and going to the moon and various elements around that. And more recently, since 2000, the expos have they've been more kind of human in that they've centered more on kind of equality, cultural diversity, sustainability, those kind of issues. So first of all, we had the expo in the Crystal Palace in Hyde Park, and that was by Sir Joseph Paxton. And at the time, that was one of the biggest glass and ironwork buildings in the world. And kind of an interesting note on that is our own Richard Turner, who was a ironmonger and engineer here in Dublin, actually was runner-up in that competition. And of course, he went on to design the wonderful kind of curvilinear glass houses that we have in the National Botanic Gardens and in Kew. And then post that, we had various expos in Brussels, Montreal, Osaka, and Seville. And on to the more recent ones, we had Hanover, Shanghai, and the last one in 2015 was in Milan. So the OPW over the years has had quite an extensive involvement in the expo projects. I've picked out just a selection of 3 of them there. Hanover in Germany, we had the Shanghai Pavilion, and more recently we were involved in the design and delivery of the Milan Pavilion in 2015. And I'll talk a bit about that Milan Pavilion because in terms of its design, it was kind of almost a precursor in a way to the Dubai Pavilion that I'll show you later on. And in respect to the design of the Milan Pavilion, the theme of that expo was sustainability. It was all about sustainable food production. So we as a design team kind of picked up on that theme, and we kind of set ourselves the goal of making the building as sustainable as possible. So we looked at the form of the building and how the environmental analysis of the building could shape that form. And with that, we ended up with this very kind of interesting curved geometry, and that kind of followed the path of the sun. And it also was used as a device to draw air into the building and naturally vent that building. And another interesting kind of aspect there is that building was totally made of timber. It was sourced locally, and we were able to reuse that pavilion in the Venice Biennale after this expo was finished. And that won the Expo Sustainability Award in Expo that year. So moving on to the actual Dubai Expo in 2021, I'll talk a bit about the site itself. It's one of the largest expos there has been. It's over, I think, 1,000 acres in size. So it's quite extensive. And the master plan for the expo is kind of interesting in its kind of lotus leaf type design. So some of the key components of it are, there are a expo village where the participants will stay during the duration. There is a metro station and a new kind of raised rail link that's been built specifically for this event, and that goes back into downtown Dubai. There is the central, what's called El Wazi, which is the central kind of very large domed space, and that's going to be used for the main community events, and that's going to form the center of the exhibition site. The actual UAE pavilion itself, that was designed by Santiago Calatrava, and that's nearing completion as we speak. And the campus itself is divided up into a number of kind of themed quarters, if you like. And the first one is the Opportunity District. The next one is the Sustainability area. And finally, we have the Mobility District. So 3 distinct areas with 3 distinct themes. And Ireland's site, if you like, is within that mobility area. And it's around 2,000 square meters. So the site itself is a very good site. It's on the main boulevard, and it looks across at the main events area. And it has a number of side streets which give it good kind of visibility and access. So when we first start looking at any design, whether it's a building or a pavilion, it's very much about analysing the context of where that building is going to be, and what are the key issues around that. And this is an example of a typical kind of exploration of that. This is an environmental analysis. And we started with that in Dubai because it has quite a strong, harsh environment, very hot and humid. It can get up to temperatures of high 30s, and it has very high humidity levels. So the comfort and being able to visit an exhibition was a key kind of aspect of where we were going to start with our design process. And we began to look at various kind of typologies that kind of addressed some of those issues. And this is an image of a palace in Medina in the Middle East. And obviously, it kind of addresses some of the issues that we were kind of trying to look at. And it's a very clear, simple plan. You've got the 2 courtyards there, and it provides that shelter, the ventilation, and all the issues that kind of address the climatic problems in that area. So that's been a very kind of influential image that we've kind of drawn upon with regards to the design itself. But also, obviously, this is an Irish pavilion, and it has to represent elements of Irish culture. And as Frank was saying earlier, in the heritage aspect, but it was very interesting to see projects like Nath in Meath, and the way the prehistoric landscape was treated by the Neolithic people, and also their use of technology back in those times in terms of its relationship to the landscape and its relationship to the natural elements, in this case, the movement of the sun. So those 2 aspects have very much informed our design, and you can see the plan of the proposed new pavilion there. It's 2 very simple squares, perfectly symmetrical, and what we're doing there is then within those elements, we're placing an exhibition space, a circular exhibition space, kind of echoing the Nath and megalithic tomb idea. And then in the other space, we have this open courtyard, which again reflects that idea of the old Arabic courtyard in Medina. And that's going to be used as a performance space for culture, for poetry readings, music, etc., etc. And then around those spaces, we have the more functional kind of backup spaces, your offices, your mechanical and electrical spaces, those toilets and those type of functional devices. And also,
sorry, Ger, just Nicola here, just giving you a little time check there. You have about 3 minutes left.
That's great, Nicola. Brilliant. Thanks for that. So a key part too of exhibition design is around the circulation of people through the scheme. So we have a queuing area, we move through to the exhibition, then people experience that performance space and they're able to leave the main event. So the other aspect of the design then is how do we express the building's form? And again, we looked to the ancient kind of aesthetic of Knowth and various kind of megalithic tombs for kind of inspiration in that regard. And we kind of reflected some of those ideas in the form of the building. So we have this kind of large cone-shaped exhibition space, and within that then the exhibition designers have created this kind of 360-degree kind of immersive experience within that space. We're also kind of interested in how the building might kind of express itself in terms of its elevations and its cladding and how it might show itself to the public. And we kind of explored the idea of these very wonderful kind of decorative stones that surround Knowth and kind of the graphic designs that are on those. And it was kind of very interesting to see how that was explored, especially today where you have kind of digitization and algorithms and various symbols and ways of expressing society. It was kind of interesting to see that in ancient times there was kind of a parallel there. So we've used those kind of graphics in the way that we've kind of designed the envelope of the building itself. And we've developed the design, and here's the models of the design that we've developed. And you can just see how the building was articulated. And finally, that's the kind of final rendered view that we have. So the building itself now is about 3 weeks away from completion. We've had a very good contractor in Dubai who's worked through a lot of the coronavirus and COVID issues, obviously. We've had a great design team with Atkins engineers and ourselves. And finally, we'd like just to thank the DFA, the Department of Foreign Affairs, who have been a very supportive and progressive client with regards to this scheme.